And welcome back to Jeff Koinange Live here at Citizen Television. We're going to go straight to DCI headquarters, where a person of interest has been told to show up related to the death of Kasipol Member of Parliament Charles Ongondo Were. Let's listen in.
Security organs to the scenes of where people have been hacked, people have been maimed, and there's nothing that has taken place. Now, the situation that we are in is very unfortunate. I don't want to talk about it because it's under investigation, and I want to leave it for the police to do their job. They summoned me to come. I am here. If anybody has anything that wants to ask me, I'll be ready to answer it. Okay? But I want to tell the people of Homa Bay County that the politics in that county has been turned into madness. It is not politics. It is thuggery. And I saw the governor pushing so much for me to be called here. She's even making calls to the police for me to be called here to make a statement. She has achieved it now. But if she has something that she's sure about, then she has to push for me to come here. I want to tell her that we are changing the politics from thuggery to civilized politics in that constituency. Because those who fight people, those who kill people, those who maim people are employees of the county government of Homa Bay. They are on her payroll. She's never talked about anything. But she's achieved this one, that she has pushed for me to be here. I know the main reason is because of the burial.
All right, we're going to get more of that news to you as soon as we get it. But the person of interest there appearing at DCI headquarters on Kiambu Road. All right, let's go on to our topic of discussion on the bench. It's a loaded bench, and we want to talk about issues that are affecting us right now. Mark Oko, Kasimum Kuri, Reverend Caroline Kiarie, Mohammed Abdullahi, and Wanjiro in the House talking about the issue. Reverend, let me go to you first, right? Member of Parliament gets assassinated in traffic in the nation's capital, and Kenyans on Twitter are celebrating. What is wrong with us?
Are they really celebrating, or because, you know, in recent times it has become evident that a large portion of Kenyan population, and now we no longer talk about Gen Z, but Kenyans in general, are experiencing a profound emotional fatigue. And it's not so much as intolerance, but rather exhaustion and collective weariness that has set in, that is born from years of maybe neglect, unresponsiveness, injustice from those entrusted with leadership. Again, at the end of the day, we keep on asking ourselves, are they really, actually, is it celebration, or are they responding to something? Yes.
Kasima, what do you think?
First of all, thank you for having me. This is a death that affects my political party, and I had met the legislator. But in the question that you asked, we have to be brutally honest with ourselves. Because in a country where 9 out of every 10 unemployed people are the youth, in a country where a cabinet secretary sells people to extractive agencies, the youth must definitely be angry. In a country where we have corruption in the billions, in the national youth services, in a country where a government borrows money in the name of the youth from the IMF, the World Bank, the youth must definitely be angry. In a country where children are studying under trees, while President and his cronies are running around gallivanting in choppers, and members of parliament are spiting whatever the youth are doing, the youth will definitely be angry. In a country where the government orchestrates the deaths of young people, and when a media house reports the story, the response of the government is to capture 4 young men on the World Media Freedom Day. And when it gets to the floor of the Legislative House, the response from the legislators is, people die all the time. We just sympathize and move on. Most definitely the youth are gonna be angry. In a country where a person who defiles a 4-year-old child is offered presidential pardon and released into the population, while young people whose only offense is stealing chicken for survival still are held in remands, the youth will definitely be angry. In a country where abductions have risen by 450% in the past year, perpetrators of police brutality cannot be brought to book. They still walk around wielding guns, and the members of parliament cannot do anything about it. But when it's one of their own, it suddenly is a matter of national interest. The youth will definitely be angry. And Jeff, in a country where femicide, an ever-rising crime in this country, is treated by throwing 100 million shillings and the formation of a sham task force, the youth will definitely be angry. So this question that you're asking is just but an exposition of what ails this country. And that's why tonight, coming from the Orange Democratic Movement Youth League, I have come to sound a Daniel-esque warning. As it was written on the wall in Amharic, and the lady of the frock will correct me if I go wrong, many, many tekil upar sin. To every defender of a rogue regime, your days are numbered. God has weighed your kingdom, and it shall be divided to the Medes and the Persians, who are represented by youth of trust and public integrity.
Are you angry?
I am very angry. I am angry because the political class has created this imaginary divide between themselves and the people of Kenya, that somehow their lives are more worthy than the ordinary citizen's life, that we can die on the streets and it is all right because we are ordinary citizens, but for them it is a big deal. That they can tell us, people die all the time, you should just, move on. This has also been said by the economic advisor of the president. So this is why Kenyans are angry, because we are looking at what's happening in the political side, and it's corruption, it's disregard for the people of Kenya, disdain for the right to life. And then we are looking at it and saying we definitely need to have an alternative political leadership that is going to center the interests of the people of Kenya, because currently that is not happening. People are being arrested for mere filmmaking. People are not safe. As at now, we are sinking into an actual dictatorship, which is very concerning for us who have experienced 24-year rule under the Moi dictatorship. We cannot allow ourselves to go back into those dark days. This is why we are pushing so hard to birth an alternative political leadership for this country.
Mohammed Abdullahi, it looks like whatever is out there is not going to end well. This anger, this intolerance is not going to end well.
Jeff, probably so. And there's no reason or there's no rush to ensure that it ends well unless it delivers justice or unless it delivers what the people of Kenya yearn for. For the Member of Parliament, I might be among the few, but I hadn't heard of him before. But the moment his name came up, you would remember that a lot of his constituents started talking, sorry. A lot of his constituents started talking about how his campaigns, both in his first term and in his second term, had had a lot of death waves. And a lot of people had died in his campaign periods and all of those things. Yeah. So a lot of the celebration of his death from a majority of Kenyans stemmed from the story or the backstory that was given by the people in his constituency. That injustice is what probably people are trying to say, that this death might be justice to all of the injustice that had happened out of his campaign and out of his term in office. So I think unless there's the justice, or unless we get that justice that people yearn for all the wrongs that have been committed against young people, all the killings, all the abductions, as my colleagues talk about, people will celebrate whatever they see to be justice to all the wrongs that have been committed against them.
Mark Oko, this celebration of death, or people's deaths, or people's loved ones' deaths, that's not what we used to be as Kenyans. What went wrong?
Thank you so much, Jeff, for having me here today. I think I'll answer this thing in three contexts, okay? Now, one, there is the literal context of what happened, and particularly tied to the Weris issue. Two, there's the social context. And three, why is this happening, especially the celebration? Now, one, the literal context as to what is indicating to politicians is this. If you tie this to what is happening contemporarily, say the physical aggression from people throwing the shoe to a president, from a handful of goons who attacked Salasia, and even if you tie it historically to a number of assassinations that have happened both in this country and even beyond this country, say the thing that happened to Trump, to Lincoln, Kennedy in 1963, what fundamentally then comes to politicians is this. No matter how much protected you are, whether you're the president of the USA, whether you're the president of Kenya, whether you're a member of parliament or governor, if there is anybody out there who has an aggressive intentionality to kick you out, they will ultimately do it, whether it is aggressively or subtly. Look at somebody just throwing a shoe to the president, and it gets him directly with all those security people around him. Two, the social context of why this is happening. You need to assess. Now, one, what is happening is we have a mob psychology, especially in the social space. And when you're assessing a mob psychology, I'd said some other day here is that there are two things. One, things are not assessed in form of singularity. What do I mean? When people castigate, say, a Lachi, when they look at Ongondo Were, they do not typically look, for example, if people are even assessing Jeff Koinange today, they do not assess Jeff Koinange singularly on what you do here, if there are people to discuss on social media, but they ask, did this Jeff Koinange support the finance bill? And brings me to the second characteristics of mob psychology. Does it offer euphoria? This is something that we cannot detach, especially in the social space. People are looking for that which offers euphoria. People, when they are talking about the death of Ongondo Were, when they talk about Elachi and all these other politicians, they do not talk about them in the context of what they do, primarily do, but first they look for that which will really offer us euphoria. Thirdly, why is this happening? In my own assessment, I think there has been inadequate national reconciliation process between the political class and the young people since the inception of what happened during the Gen Z process. I don't think there has been some adequate intentionality from the political class to form a national reconciliation process, especially in regards to what happened to the Gen Z. And why? Because if they're looking into their political prospects, if you start such a discussion, it may not come into their benefit.
Okay, I know you want to respond, Angela, real quick, but before I do that, any of you Catholic? Anybody a Catholic? No. All right. We just got breaking news from the Vatican. You know, today was the first day of voting by the cardinals in the conclave to see if they could come to a consensus and vote for the next pope. Well, literally, there's some black smoke billowing from the chimney, which means no pope yet.
No pope yet.
But we'll keep you posted. It's going to be a few days still, but for now, black smoke, black smoke. All right. Let's continue our conversation.
Yeah,
Oh, is that it? There's black smoke?
Conclave begins.
It means there's no verdict, there's no winner, there's no...
Two-thirds majority.
Two-thirds majority stuff out of 133.
Right.
Ooh, crazy.
Interesting, okay.
All right, well, should we return to our conversation? What do you say? There's a lot of black smoke on the screen. Wendy, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, I'd like to respond to that because I do not think it is euphoria. I think people are genuinely angry. For example, from the social justice movement, we've been documenting cases of people who are being killed by police for the last decade. And then we watch Blood Parliament, and it is the Kenya Defense Forces that are shooting young people of this country. Anybody would be angry at that. And then we do not have the security organs of the country, the Internal Affairs Unit, IPOA, ODPP, they are not giving us confidence that they're going to resolve this matter. Today we were launching the Missing Voices report. 104 cases of people who have been killed since June last year. 104 cases. And over the years, you'll see that we've been having a lot more killings. So we are not having a euphoria. We are actually angry. And And this is informed by our lived realities, by the poverty, by the corruption, by what is happening in the political space, that we the people are looking at this and feeling like, where is this country heading?
Yeah. Reverend Carol, you heard that. Where is this country heading? Do we need divine intervention?
We definitely need God at every point of our lives, whether we are on the mountains and things are so good for us, or when we are down in the valley, we still need God. However, what we are witnessing are not just protests. We are emotionally coping now where we have gotten, and the Kenyan public is no longer shocked by tragedy, scandal, or impunity. Instead, there is a normalization of loss, a numbness towards both grief and governance. It not only slides to just grief, but also governance, but also it also comes from, I think for me, it's a form of mirroring, because whatever they say is what now what the Kenyan people are saying. And we see that there's a double standard when I think it's the BBC report that came out first, and there was a member of parliament who said, people die every day, we sympathize and we move on. And when one of them is killed, which we actually do condemn killing, and then the Kenyan people mirror back what they said. It's not, we sympathize, yes, but we move on, then it becomes a very huge problem for them. And also they're showcasing double standard. And the question is even the question right? Is this question for both the Kenyan people and the government? Are we just used to grief and governance? Because if the response of a whole member of parliament in a house is we sympathize and move on, then there are so many questionable things. We've also had the remarks that appeared to dismiss public concern, including statements implying that dissatisfied citizens should consider leaving the country. I think we also had that at some point. And in such a climate then, when the same public does not express empathy at the personal losses of our leaders, it should not be hastily judged as intolerance or we are being indisciplined because we have had that too. Rather, it should be understood as the consequence of alienation and a broken heart. Our people, the Kenyan people, are hurting and they're bleeding and they are coping the best way they can. And I don't think it's right when you slap someone and then they scream. It is not proper for you to tell them, I don't like the way you scream. Allow them to scream the way they want to scream. I don't understand how you slap us and then you tell us, I don't like the tone of your screaming. Kindly tone it down. And so it is very important for us to just, let us just be divine intervention, yes, but also even the value, our value systems, becoming a good human being and a proper Kenyan citizen should become a paramount thing for each and every one of us. Where is patriotism? Not just for the Kenyan people, but where is the patriotism of our leaders? For me, I think leadership is giving up self for the service of others. But I think our leaders see that leadership is a moment for me to get richer, is a moment for me now to shine and do whatever I wanted to do because now I am above the law. However, we still need a lot of redefining of what leadership is, what our ethos is as a country. Our systems, our value systems also need to be evaluated because there's some things that we are doing that do not actually reflect our stand as Kenyans, our stand as human beings. And so I think that is where the Kenyan people are coming from. And it's no longer a youth agenda. It is now a Kenyan agenda. And so we should look at it from that point. Where are we coming from first? For us to change the future, it is important for us to look at not just the reaction, that these people are reacting this way, but what were the actions that influenced this? Yes, it might be wrong on how they have reacted, but what really? Let us be very objective on how we are looking at matters as a country so that we don't diagnose ourselves or rather treat symptoms insteed of treating the actual disease.
Casimir, I saw you shaking your head and nodding your head at the same time. What are your thoughts?
I agree with everything that the Right Reverend has said, because we are at a time where we need to reflect as a country. And we're suffering a point where demagogues are just consistently pushing down really problematic narratives to try and sow perceived seeds of division amongst the populace. And the sooner we realize this, the better. We've gotten to the point where evidential reasoning is out of the window. Scientific proof means nothing, where people will bring out data and show you this is what is happening, and the reaction of the political class will be there are three kinds of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics. They do not believe in that. And we're at a point, at a brink, where we have a very specific call as the youth of this nation to save our country. It seems as though democracy, which is based on shared truth, is slowly on the wane, and autocracy, which is based on shared lies, is rising and on the march. And as young people, I have to say that as exciting as it might be, and I speak as a person who might have bought into such ideology, proximity to power does not mean that you wield it. And it does not mean that because this person is in civil societies and civil societies are suffering today, and I am in a political party that seems agreeable to the government of the day, that when a bullet pierces through the flesh of a young person, it hurts less because they come from the ODM, that it hurts more because they come from a social justice movement. We are at a point where if we do not come to the realization, and this is specifically to us who are in the established systems and political parties, if we do not come to the realization that the nation is much bigger and better than all of us, we're at the brink of collapse. And we should not pave way for the shared lies of the autocracy to overshadow the shared truths of the democracy that we enjoy in our beautiful country.
Absolutely. Good point. Guys, I want you to listen to a soundbite by National Assembly Speaker Moses Watangula. This is what he had to say. Just take a listen.
As a family, you have lost. Don't pay any attention to the filth and nonsense on social media. Kenyans have become very callous. Kenyans have become very heartless. Kenyans have become people who is difficult to describe. Our friend has died in very tragic circumstances to hands of criminals. Because anybody who can pull a trigger on another is nothing but a criminal. One, I encourage all of us, whoever has any information that can help, and as an institution of parliament, we'll play our part to see that any contribution we can make to bring those criminals to book, we will. Number two, I encourage all of you members, what has happened to Ongondo Were can happen to any one of you. So tighten your security, be conscious of your security, don't fear to live, don't live in fear.
Mohammed Abdullahi, Kenyans are callous, Kenyans are heartless. Your thoughts?
Start with Mohammed.
Shocked, shocked at the very least, Jeff. Probably that's a better description of the political class. I do not think that is a description of Kenyans. The Speaker of Parliament says Kenyans have become people who are hard to describe. The political class has become a group that is very easy to describe, and I'll describe them. He has overseen a parliament that is captured by the executive. He oversees a parliament that is not alive to the interest of the people. He oversaw a parliament that on June 25th, when millions of young people were right outside parliament protesting against the finance bill that went ahead to pass a finance bill that was to introduce tax measures which were going to hurt Kenyans, while Kenyans right outside of Parliament kept telling them that this is not what we want. So, Speaker of Parliament, if there is anyone who is heartless, I think it's the person who wanted to introduce extra taxes on sanitary pads, on baby formula. I think that's the person who is heartless. If there is anyone who is heartless, it's the person who described the deaths of young people on Parliament grounds as deaths happen every year. Sorry, deaths happen and people die all the time and we move on. So, so I think the Honourable Speaker speaks for the political class. Those are the people who are heartless. I think a lot of Kenyans are people of genuine concern, people who love this country, people who just want to live decent, affordable lives, who want to take their kids to school and afford 3 meals a day.
Makoko, your thoughts? I saw you nodding over there.
Yeah, I think before I respond about what the speaker was raising about, I think, one, I want to give a personal response, especially to my fellow panelists here. You know, Jeff, in politics, you can either be factually correct or you can be popularly correct. And sometimes in the short-term haul, many people tend to acclimatize to be popularly correct because they think being factually correct is a very long-term game. And this is something that my good brother Samuel has been, I think, struggling with, and Samuel Makori has been struggling with the idea of trying always to be popularly correct. And I think the challenge with that is because in politics, the moment you detach from that which people are familiar with you, you experience an exponential growth in terms of your popularity. And my brother Samuel, I think he will be a good example for that. Samuel's rise, especially in this political space, was due to his liberal nature in terms of...
But there's some Gen Zs who insist that Samuel sold them out.
Yeah, that's why I want to respond to this, is that he started out as a liberal, you know, in terms of running around, being chased away around nation media. Then in the process, he decided to become a moderate, to join the systems. Then he changes again when, I think what happened, I think he released some press statement the other day. Now, when you are inconsistent and you detach from that which people are already familiar with you, you now sound not so genuine. And this has risen to so many commercial activists around this Nairobi, people who are pretending to be actual activists, but just taking the advantage to be popularly correct. Now, to the social media thing. Why do politicians don't take the Kenyan people seriously? I think the person to blame is the Kenyan people. Why? Place the ball in the social media. What the politicians are saying is that, and I addressed this in another platform, the Kenyan people are very principled on the social media space. They are very principled. But when they go to the ground where they meet the actual people, there is no replication of that. I'm telling you, Jeff, today, in social media, the favorite candidate will be a Maraga Omtata candidate or a Maraga Matiang'i candidate. But when you go to the ground, they would attach themselves to these candidates whom they do not so socially loved. Ask my good friend here, who is Wanjira, who is an activist, if she calls for a public forum, say at Uhuru Park, to these same people who are supporting whatever she's saying on social media to come, they will not come. But for these so disdained politicians on social media, if they call for a political rally, of course the external factors such as mobilization, these people will turn out. Secondly, why don't the political class want to engage, especially these young people on social media? It's because for their political prospects. Because when they start that engagement, the fear is that there will be a discussion on generational shift, and it will serve to the exit of some of them. Of course, this will happen at some point, but I don't think it is in their interest to expedite this process. So fundamentally, what I'm trying to say is this. Unless we see a clear replication of what we see those Kenyans who are so socially principled on the social media space and on the ground, these same young people who are telling you, oh, we don't like person X, person B, when you're a politician, you go to the ground. These are the same young people who are asking you for handouts. Then you're like, should I take these people actually seriously or not?
Let me give Casmo a chance to respond before I go to break. There's some who say you sold out to Gen Zs.
Right. And I think I anticipated this question because I sort of was writing and I don't know why it came up. But I would like to say to my brother, Mark, that debate and disagreement are at the core of any true democracy, and that argument is necessary. That's why I take all sorts of criticism in stride. And being in the ODM Youth League does not necessarily mean that we have some special rights that the other Kenyan does not have. We do not buy bread cheaper because my party leader is Raila Amolo Odinga. I do not fuel my car for cheaper because we have an MOU with the current existing party. But this is a country that is going to be left to us. And as in a situation where such contradictions abound, because the contradictions abound everywhere, we must tend towards what is just and what is right. If this government does something that is right, I will give it my best credits. But it also deserves my opprobrium as a youth leader. When it does something wrong, when it is serving its own interest, I must be able to criticize it. And as a center leftist, I would say that, and the communists will understand this, that Chairman Mao advises that where contradictions abound within the Communist Party, the way you sort out the contradictions is through criticism and self-criticism. And even within this movement, the contradictions that abound are many, and they will be sorted out through criticism and self-criticism. That feedback that you're telling me that some are saying was sold out is criticism that I cannot, I've tried to fight it, but at some point you have to sit down and ask yourself, where does greater good tend towards? And that serves the function of self-criticism. So for me, where it stands, I have no gain or loss by being criticized. But it would be a far troubling thing or a far troubling thought if I have the chance, just for the sake of cheap popularity, which I have earned and lost and earned again in certain circles. If for popularity, as the hymn writer says, once to every man and nation, there comes a moment to decide. If I do not decide to do that, which is right.
Hold on, stand by. I saw you, last time you were on this show, you did say Caswell sold you guys out. You said he was a traitor. You still believe that?
I think Caswell has finally realized that it is not as rosy as it looked on that other side. But I don't want to make this show about Caswell. I want to speak about Watangula's speech, the Speaker of the National Anthem, the National Parliament. And I want to very much agree with you. I think that was very articulate, that it is us who are wondering how it is that the political class have become so heartless, so callous, so disconnected with our reality as the people of Kenya. I want to tell the Speaker that the people of Kenya are absolutely patriotic. In case he has forgotten, it was millions of Kenyans that came to say, we are standing up for Kenya today, to say we are rejecting this oppression in the name of a finance bill that is going to make our lives even more difficult. So the people have remained the same. It is our politicians that we are wondering, where is your patriotism? Where is your sense of country? Because your money is not enough. You need Kenya to remain intact. So we have been disciplined in protecting the sovereignty of the Kenyan people. I also want to say that your point about it is the people of Kenya to blame. I don't think the people are to blame. I think we need to intensify our organizing. I think we need to continue teaching each other about the need to create alternative ways of doing politics in our country, because that has got to be birthed. And it has got to be birthed at this particular political season, where we are seeing traditionally we have had tribal-based political parties. This has not brought any meaningful change to our country. The Jubilee parties, the TNAs, the ODMs, they have been ethnic organizings. And now we're growing up as a generation and we're realizing, wait a minute, when we need social services, it is not our tribe that dictates the quality of the services that we get. So what do we need to do? We need to organize differently as the people of Kenya, as a generation, that my identity is first a Kenyan identity before it is any other identity. And that is why we need to build political parties that are loaded with ideologies of social justice, human rights, and the rule of law. And then we can progress, because the people are the motive force of history. And at this particular time, the motive force of history is saying we are tribeless, and we are leaderless and partyless, which is something we are also criticizing. We are saying we need to be organized. We need to find leaders so that we can actually advance this course that we have been on for a while now. So it's just history pushing through traditional ways of doing politics that have not yielded any real results for the people of Kenya.
Good point, all of you. I want to take a break, come back, talk about it. Next month will be 1 year since June 25th demonstrations. 1 year. Before that, have we achieved anything? Have we, as in Gen Z, have we achieved anything? Or is it just, crash and burn? And there's 2 more years to go to the next election, guys. So like you said, there's not much time to prepare.
Who says so?
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You think it might not be 2 years?
I'm just asking who's saying.
I love it. I love it. Young people, folks, they speak their minds without fear of contradiction. That's what we're talking about today. Gen Z's in the house. Keep tweeting at Koinange Jeff, at Citizen TV Kenya. The hashtag is JKLive. JKLive takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.